How's it going, everyone? Welcome to another video after a long break. Things happen, you often don't find yourself motivated enough to make a video or something. But today I decided to make a special video because I got tagged on a challenge by another channel, Easygoing Gaming on YouTube, and they asked me to do my top 10 favorite games of all time video. And it seems like a gigantic task, but I decided to go for it and come down to a list of 10 games that I think deserve to be called out. The added requirement was you have to rate them and order them in terms of your liking. I felt that was a little bit too hard and decided to just keep it as a top 10 list. So I might be not on track with the challenge requirements, but I still wanted to share my top 10 favorite games of all time. So the first game on my list is BioShock Infinite. Everybody suggested me to go for BioShock 1 and 2 before jumping onto this third game. But what I found out was those games are a little bit scarier than this game, and I'm not that great with horror games or jump scares and anything scary. So what I decided was to go for this game instead, and boy was this game good. It could be my recency bias because I just finished this game about a month ago. But this game was so good. I mean, the characters, the art design, the world, the whole city of Colombia, the kind of writing style that these guys have. It's just amazing. You play as a character called Booker DeWitt, and it's like a first-person shooter game with a heavy focus on the story. And you meet this character called Elizabeth, and together you unravel sort of this story that links these two characters and the world of Colombia together. And it was great. All in all, like, fantastic story, fantastic writing style. Especially love the characters and personalities that they put into each of these two characters, Booker DeWitt and Elizabeth. Yeah, I feel like sharing anything more about the story would go into the spoiler territory, and I would love for you to get into this game completely blind if possible. So yeah, great game, BioShock Infinite. I have this old disc here with me for the 360 because I couldn't find an individual copy for BioShock Infinite for all the modern platforms. There's this collection that I found, BioShock 1, 2, and Infinite, but I like to also own all my completed games in individual physical formats. So yeah, this one's great. The second game on my list is Super Mario Odyssey for the Switch. Now, this was one of the first games that I actually played on my Switch. This has probably been the best 3D platformer experience I've had till date. I haven't, to be honest, I haven't played any of the Mario 3D platformer Marios released before this. I went in with no real expectations from this game, and boy oh boy, I was completely surprised by the creativity on display in this game. I mean, it's a typical run-of-the-mill story with all Mario games. The difference is this Mario focuses on this ability of throwing your hat, and as soon as it touches any other enemy or any other character, you kind of get transformed into that character, and you gain new sort of traversal and movement abilities. So that is the simple mechanic, and it could be completely like a gimmick, but it just works. There's so much brilliance on display here, because every new level you get to throw your hat onto something new, and you discover this completely new set of collectibles or things to find in that level. It's just amazing to see the kind of wizardry people do with level designs and simple mechanics. So it's a game for all ages. Do not sleep on this. If you think this is a kid's game, don't do that. Super Mario Odyssey is by far the best 3D platform I've played till date, and kind of reinvigorated the love for the Mario and the Nintendo franchises for me, because I never really owned a physical Nintendo console before the Switch, and this kind of made me want to go back all the way down to the SNES and the Game Boy Advance and try all other platformer games, because I wasn't too into platformer games before this. But yeah, Super Mario Odyssey is great. Pick this up if you haven't. The third game on my list is Transistor. This was my first sort of Supergiant game experience, and this game just oozes style from the get-go. The art design, the soundtrack, voice acting is just top notch, and it's all done by this small team, and it sometimes, baffles me how even like a handful of people can create such a masterpiece of a game. This game is like a combination of real-time sort of isometric view fighting combined with turn-based style gameplay as well. I mean, it's nothing new. It's been done before, like real-time with turn-based combat mixed together. But what is different with Transistor is that, first of all, the story is great. It's just awesome. It's very sharp and edgy writing. But the real star of the gameplay is this thing called functions. So what they have is they have these gameplay elements called functions, which are, attacks, type of attacks. So you can use them individually in the battle. But what they can also be done is like you can combine functions together and create these, super abilities. And these are only possible by the order of the functions that you use or how many functions you're using. So it's just like a mix and match of what kind of attacks you can come up with. And there's a lot of synergy between these functions. What functions you use before any particular function can make or break the synergy. So there's a lot of build variety. There's a lot of variety that you can come up with your play style when it comes to the play style for the games. It's a shorter game. It's not too long, but just enough to like get you involved and engrossed in this mystical world that they have created. It's a stylish game, and on the Switch it plays perfectly. I picked up this copy from limited run from eBay because of course I don't I'm not crazy to sit on limited run and like refresh the page the day the game hits and like grab my copy. These become sold out in like a minute or so, something. But yeah, I paid a little bit of late adopter tax from eBay, but still this game is just so good. I felt like I needed to own it. So Transistor is a must buy on any platform. Get it for super cheap on Steam. But if you want to play on the go, which I feel like this game perfectly fits the handheld format, and Transistor was just awesome. So yeah, this was the first game that I finished in the handheld mode for Switch. So the fourth game on my list is Yakuza Kiwami. This is the first game in the Yakuza series. It's an open world melee-based fighting game with a heavy focus on story. The open world is not as large as what you would see in a Grand Theft Auto or all the Ubisoft games. It's definitely a more fictional representation of what a modern day Japanese district would look like. The story is so gripping on this game, and it just stayed with me for a long time even after I completed this game. It's a story about this character called Kiryu, who's part of a Yakuza clan. He, for certain circumstances, gets imprisoned, and then after a decade or so in jail, he's on parole. He finds out there are some changes in his clan. A lot of the factions in Tokyo, in and around Tokyo, are kind of looking for this girl who's also on this cover, by the way. And there's some big dispute about a large sum of money involved. There's a lot of story threads that kind of all converge in this like 20 plus hours of gameplay. It's very cinematic experience, definitely very dialogue and story heavy. So if you're not a big fan of long cutscenes or games which have a lot of dialogue and story moments, it might not be for you. But don't sleep on the game. Definitely a very contained experience. You interact with the world, open world. If you want to sort of blow off some steam from the story, like go and do some fun things in this fictional district of Tokyo. But otherwise, the story is the focus here, and definitely pick this up. It's available on all platforms, also on Game Pass. I think those games might be leaving very, very soon. It's kind of like Netflix, so they might come back again if they renew their license. But if not, give the games a shot on Game Pass. And if you like it, then you can own the remastered collection on all platforms. I picked this one up for PS4. But yeah, I love the cover of the steelbooks, by the way. Both. This is the kind of the tattoo that's on the main character. Yeah, I love this game. Definitely pick this up. Next, I want to talk about Inside by Playdead. Playdead have previously created the famous game called Limbo. And if you've not played that, play that as well. But like Limbo, Inside is like a platformer, puzzle platformer. It's more 2D, but it's got depth in it, so 2.5D, I guess. You've got this dark, moody atmosphere in this whole game, and the protagonist is, you have to run, climb, swim, jump, and like do some light puzzles. And again, the background, the story kind of is all through environmental storytelling. You've got visual cues, audio cues, and small props and set design. That's how Playdead delivered this story, and it's a beautiful, haunting story. I feel like this story will sit with you for a long time. Go in blind for this game, and go with an open mind. Take this game in a slow, relaxed manner. It's a short experience, but still very contained and very tightly delivered, I would say. I feel like I would be willing to try all games by Playdead going forward. Limbo was just beautiful. I still feel like Inside has a little bit more, they've matured with their storytelling. It's a little bit more philosophical, a little bit more abstract. So I like that kind of stuff. If you want, you could pick this double pack for all platforms and have both games. But Inside is my definite recommendation. Go play that game now. The next game on my list is Celeste. This one is just a special game for me. I was playing this game, or I started playing this game when I was writing my graduation thesis, and this was especially a very stressful time in my life. This game, with its focus on mental health and focus on winning over your challenges, just spoke to me that time. So that's why it has a very special place in my heart. That aside, I feel like this game on its own stands up there as the best platformer, I believe. It's the most challenging game I've finished till date. Be ready to die countless times in this game, and this is the first game where I understood what's the meaning of tight controls. Like every positioning that you do, every jump, dash, climbing, it has to be intentional. There's not a lot of room for errors. Although I would have to say that I died more than 1,000 times in this game, and this game does not shame you for that. It doesn't really make you feel bad for dying so many times. It rather kind of makes it part of this story and says that you've accomplished, in spite of all these challenges, you've kind of overcome this literal mountain in the game that you climb. So it's a game where this protagonist is trying to climb a mountain, and the gameplay itself feels like that. So it's like a very figurative and literal explanation of ascending a mountain. I would advise to play this in short bursts. If you're that kind of person who gets irritated by difficult sections in a game and likes to rage quit game, take it slow with this game. I took over a year to complete it. I took a year to complete Celeste, and people might laugh at that, but for me it was just, I never played a challenging platformer before, and this is by far the experience that has stayed with me for a long time. So pick this up if you haven't. Next on the list is Skyrim. I'm sure you must have played Skyrim already, but I was a little late to the party. At the time when Skyrim came out, I didn't have a good computer, didn't have a console or anything. But I constantly heard from my friends that this was a great game. Everybody was, telling their Skyrim stories, and I used to get so excited and intrigued by this world. But I never got a chance to play this. But only, last year I picked this up. This game was like, I got hooked on it completely. People were right. I mean, no wonder this game is like a huge success, but I completely no-lifed this game for about 2 months or so. Got into killing my first dragon, to sort of exploring all the dungeons, talking to all kinds of interesting characters with so many unique backstories, the lore of Elder Scrolls universe, all of that. I just got enveloped by all of that, building your home inside the world of Skyrim. I mean, there's this unique otherworldliness about Skyrim and sort of Bethesda games in general. I feel like this is the closest representation to a tabletop role-playing game, because you can role-play so many fantasy tropes in this game. I could be a thief, you could be a mage, two-handed spell sort of a guy. Ignore the main storyline completely, which I would advise you to not do. And I'm so excited for Starfield coming out next year. Again, I've tried simmering down my expectations from games these days. But hey, I'll give it a shot. If it's a good game, it's a good game. I'm not gonna bet my life on it. But yeah, Elder Scrolls Skyrim is a must play if you haven't for some reason. Next up is Brothers: A Tale of Two Sons, directed by Joseph Fares, who also directed the recently Game of the Year award winner It Takes Two, and previously A Way Out. I'm a fan of his work now, but this one was I think, the most unique experience I've had till date. It's a tale of two sons who are on the hunt for a cure for their father, and you go on from there to find out the cure over the span of, I think, 4 to 5 hours of gameplay. And you're controlling these two characters using the two thumbsticks of a controller. One stick kind of controls the bigger brother, who can kind of do heavy lifting sort of a work. He can push things, move things around, and the other one is a little bit more nimble and can go through gaps, maneuver a little bit better. But yeah, you're just controlling these two characters, and it almost seems like, it's hard to get used to that control scheme when you start the game, but it just becomes second nature very soon into the game. So they must have done a lot of usability testing with the game, and it's just fascinating to see that somebody can pull off that kind of a control scheme and mechanism. But yeah, it works wonderfully. Over the span of the whole game, you meet a few characters, and then you kind of come to the conclusion of the story. The whole story is very emotional, has ups and downs, and I would say it just tugs at your heart. Go in for this game completely blind again. It's a beautiful game. It's gonna stay with you for a long time. When I think about the game, I get shivers. This is just perfection, gaming perfection. Game as a visual medium for interactive art. This game proves it. So play this game. The second last game I have on my list is Borderlands 2. Now this one is going to be a game that only appeals to me and a certain segment of audience. Not everybody likes this, but this is a very special game for me. I mean, I couldn't believe that somebody could mix the idea of loot and RPG mechanics with a first-person shooter. They definitely popularized the idea. I think Hellgate London did it before it, or some other games might have tried it before Borderlands, but they definitely made that a successful genre. And now you have Destiny, and now you have all other games, Outriders. I think Borderlands 2 is something special. They've got a really wacky storyline. They've got a great set of characters. Some are annoying, some are great. The antagonist, Handsome Jack, is just one of the best written villains in the gaming industry, I believe. Not on a lot of a theoretical level, but on a pop culture entertainment level. The Handsome Collection is available for so cheap everywhere. You get 2 games, all the DLC for Borderlands 2, and all of them are great. I feel like Borderlands 2 is just the peak of Borderlands franchise. Borderlands 3, has its moments. The gameplay is top-notch and modernized. But I feel like Borderlands 2 was where they had most original writing, most original set of characters, and the IP was sort of at its peak. So Borderlands 2 is a definite recommendation if you're in for looter shooter, RPG, first-person games. Final game that I want to talk about is Outer Wilds. Do not confuse it with Outer Worlds. Outer Worlds is an RPG Fallout-like game, but this one is also in space, but a little different. But oof, this game. You have to get this game. Out of all the games in this list, if there's something that you should go and get right now, should be Outer Wilds. Because Mobius Digital have created one of the best time loop mechanic games that I've played in a while. The whole idea is that you're this sort of unnamed character, and is trying to find something about this lost character, but ends up discovering a whole lot more. And I'm not going to explain what more, and just understand that there's a time loop involved, some planets involved, and a lot of knowledge hunting that you have to do. I think one pro tip from me is, like, do not get thrown off by the ship controls. For the first time that you pick up the ship or pilot the ship in the game, it takes a little while to get used to, but don't get discouraged by that in the game. Push through that. But I feel like once you're comfortable with the spaceship flying mechanic, rest of the game is just gonna be one remarkable journey. To the day when I hear the Outer Wilds soundtrack, I get chills in my body. This is a definite recommendation from me. Go and play this game right now.